Merry Christmas, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Joshua Bridwell Show. This is the podcast where I talk about your personal, professional, and spiritual growth, and where we talk about your stories to help you go from stuck to growth. I am your host, Joshua Bridwell, and don't forget to subscribe if you're on YouTube, download if you're listening to me on your favorite podcasting platform to stay tuned in. And today I want to talk to you about something that I have talked to you a little bit about throughout a couple of different episodes, and I'm talking about the development and purpose of a word of the year. There are some people that have misconceptions about them. Maybe you're somebody that has used a word of the year in the past, but you're wanting to make it better. Then this episode is going to be for you. If you are somebody that is just now getting into word of the year, or maybe you clicked on the episode because you are subscribed and just want to keep up, or if you looked for personal growth, personal development, professional development, spiritual growth, stuff like that, and this just seemed interesting to you, then I'm glad that you're here. And I want to talk to you about the word of the year because it's something that can really transform your life, and it can transform your perspective, your vision. It's going to help you live your life with more purpose. And choosing your word of the year can be kind of difficult. And I know that we have all tried to set a New Year's resolution. And by the end of February, we forget about that resolution, or we just say, okay, well, we messed up once or twice, so I'm not going to put effort into it anymore. Sometimes we have a long list of resolutions and it can be really overwhelming. But the thing is, we can set a whole bunch of goals, and a word of the year is not something that you do instead of having habits and goals. It's actually something that ties them all together, and it can help you to develop your habits and your goals. It's something that's going to help you to stay focused and stay intentional on your growth journey. And so by the end of this episode, I want you to know what a word of the year is, why it's important, how you can pick a word of the year that is personal, and I hate to use the word perfect, but using or developing a word that is a good fit for you in this episode of your life, and how you can live it out each and every day. I'm also going to share some psychological approaches to it to help understand why a word of the year is something that you should implement in your life. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about scripture to keep you inspired, to keep you biblically grounded throughout all of this. So let's go ahead. Let's dive in. We've already talked a little bit about what a word of the year is. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a word that you pick that guides you. You can think of it as your North Star as we are approaching the Christmas season. It's a word that becomes like your North Star. It's a word that reflects who you want to be, what it is that you want to focus on, and how you want to grow. You can think of it like a theme for your life for the upcoming year. And so let's say that you have a word that you want to focus on for the upcoming year. Let's say that it's courage. That word can approach how, or that word can influence how you approach some difficult conversations. It can also affect how you take on new challenges or even step out of your comfort zone. And if you're somebody that does have difficulty engaging in tough conversations, maybe you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, maybe you are just shy and you don't want to engage in difficult conversations, that does take a lot of courage. And a really great resource for you to help break out of that shell is the book Crucial Conversations. This is something that I read last summer, and it has really transformed how I talk with my team, how I approach conversations, because conversations begin before you even open your mouth. So if you are somebody that does want to get better in conversations. Highly encourage you to check out the book Crucial Conversations. I'm going to add it in the description below for you if you'd like to pick up a copy of that. But it doesn't just stop there. Let's continue on with the theme of courage, because that could shape the type of goals that you set, like applying for a new job, or if public speaking is something that really terrifies you, maybe getting involved in a public speaking group, or taking that first step to speak in front of 2, 3, maybe even 5 people. Having a word of the year can also help you to guide which habits you develop. That could be like journaling what it is that you're afraid of, or practicing mindfulness. That way, you know what challenges you can lean into and you can take head on. And to keep this word, whatever it is that you pick, whether it's courage, whether it's health, to keep this top of mind, what I encourage you to do is to write it down on a sticky note and put it somewhere that you are going to see it each and every day. That could be the mirror in the bathroom. That could be on the coffee maker if you drink coffee all the time. Just put it somewhere where you're going to be able to see that every day. And every morning, I want you to look at it and think, how can I live out courage today? How can I live out health today? You could also have on your phone, if you've got a smartphone or if you have a computer, you can also have your background on your phone or your computer be something inspirational around that word. It could be the word itself, just something that you can see that's going to remind you of that word, of your North Star. And it's important to do that because psychologists have found that our brains are wired to focus better when we simplify our goals. There's something called the Zeigarnik effect, and our minds have a tendency to hold on to things that are incomplete. That could be an incomplete puzzle. I firmly believe that that's why songs get stuck in our head, is because in our minds it's marked as an incomplete task if you didn't hear it all the way through. Think about it. That could be why once you listen to the song, your brain marks it as complete and it doesn't get stuck in your head anymore. But our brains can hold on to things that are considered unfinished or, in some cases, important. And a single word is going to give our brains something easy to remember, and is going to give our brains something really easy to act on and mark as a complete task as we move throughout the day. But it has a spiritual side too. If we look at Proverbs chapter 29, verse 18, it says, "Where there is no vision, people perish." Your word of the year becomes that vision. It reminds you of what really matters, and it keeps you aligned with God's plan for your life. It's about creating something that is really clear, something that is really intentional, and gives your life direction that's going to support your goals and your habits. So what I typically do when I'm talking about goals and habits, if you haven't listened to my previous episode, I highly encourage you to go back, listen to my goals and habits episode. I will come up with my word of the year first. I'll say, okay, this year, I want to focus on health. Okay, well, what areas of my life do I want to focus on when it comes to health? I chose my physical health, my mental health, my financial health, my spiritual health, and my relational/marital health. And creating goals that are in line with my overall word of the year and that fit into those individual categories. And so we've already talked a little bit about why you should bother with a word of the year in the first place. But I want to just be real with you for a minute. And I want to give you some simple practices that can make a really big difference in your life. Number one is having a word of the year is going to provide clarity in a really busy and a really noisy world. Let's be honest, our lives can be very busy. There's a lot going on all the time. Sometimes it seems like the world is on fire, between social media, between having to check your work email, a never-ending to-do list. It seems like as soon as I check something off of my to-do list, 2 or 3 more things get added to it. It's really easy through all of this for you to lose focus on your life. And so your word of the year is going to help you to see through all of the messes of life, and is going to help create a focal point for you. It's like a mental reset button. Think about it that way. It's a mental reset button that reminds you that this is what I'm about this year. Studies show that with a clear sense of purpose, people are happier, people are more resilient, and to be honest, I want that. Who doesn't want to be more resilient and to be happier in life? Something practical for you to do to put all of this into practice is to write down 3 situations, just 3. Don't go overboard, don't overwhelm yourself, but write down 3 situations in your life where you currently feel overwhelmed. How could whatever word of the year you pick help to provide clarity in each of these situations? Or can it? If the word that you pick isn't going to help with your overwhelm, then you need to go back to the drawing board and you need to pick a new word that can help to provide clarity in areas of your life where you feel overwhelmed. For example, if you're somebody that is overwhelmed, you may choose the word patience. Think about how you might respond differently to a stressful meeting or a tough conversation if you lean into that with patience. It's going to make a really big difference. And again, if you are having a difficult time with tough conversations, go ahead, check out that book, Crucial Conversations. It's going to be a huge help for you. It's also going to help to create consistency across your life. That is the second reason why a word of the year is extremely important, is it's going to help create consistency across your life. The beauty of having a word of the year is that it can apply to absolutely everything. Take the word balance, for example. It might mean that you say no to overworking. You might spend more time with friends and family. You might take better care of yourself. You're learning what a work-life balance looks like for you. Don't go looking on social media, YouTube. Don't go looking around for work-life balance videos. Because the reality of it is, what works for one person is not going to work for another person. And to be honest with you, I think that a work-life balance is that there are certain seasons of your life where work is a high priority. For example, if you're trying to pay off debt, you are going to have to make a lot of sacrifices and you're going to be working extra hours. But if you're getting ready to have a kid, then you're going to really prioritize your family during that time over work. So, I mean, it's going to be a flow. And so if your word of the year is balance, I need you to go in with the expectation that it's not trying to balance everything within the scope of a day, but it is going to be, there will be several seasons where work is going to be important, family is going to be important, but at the end of the day, the priorities should be God, family, work. So take that, do with that what you want. It might even, whenever we're talking about balance, it might even say no just so that you can spend more time taking care of yourself. It's also going to help you to set goals. For example, I'm not going to spend 20 to 30 minutes gathering everything that I need and staying at work even longer. It might say, hey, I'm setting a boundary and I'm going to make sure that I leave work at 5 p.m. It's also going to help you to build habits, such as scheduling weekly check-ins, as well as evaluating how your balanced life feels. You need to check in with yourself. You need to find out how your current approach to your word of the year is working for you, how it makes you feel. a verse that I refer to a lot, not necessarily in the show, but just in my personal life, is Philippians chapter 3, verses 13 through 14. It says, "Forget what is behind you and strain toward what is ahead." A word of the year is going to keep you moving forward consistently. It is going to create consistency across your life. The third reason that a word of the year is very important is because it creates simplicity that works. Again, I mentioned at the beginning of this episode that some of us set a whole bunch of different goals and habits that we want to accomplish, and then we wonder why we don't accomplish anything, or we fall off by the end of February with our New Year's resolutions. Resolutions already can be something that's very overwhelming. We have to recognize that you've got 10 different goals, and by the time you've written them all down, it's exhausting just to think about them. You're not going to remember all of them. A word is something that is simple. If you forget all of your goals and all of your habits, remember your one word. It's the foundation upon which your goals and your habits are built on. Ecclesiastes chapter 7 verse 29 says, "God created mankind upright, but they have gone in search of many schemes." Simplicity is something that's going to bring clarity into your life, and clarity will bring you results. Something that I want you to do is I want you to write your word down. I want you to write it in a journal, on a piece of paper, a napkin, whatever it is that you have with you. Write your word at the top of that. And I want you to use it as a guide. I want you to keep it with you for a week. Write it down at the top of whatever and then keep it with you for a week. Use it as a guide to how you're going to approach your commitments, your responsibilities, your decisions for this week. Keep it at the top of your mind. It's important that you keep that with you because life can get really busy. We can forget our words sometimes. Life rarely goes as planned, but that's also why a word of the year it's genius because it's flexible. Maybe if you have the word strength, it starts with physical health, but halfway through it becomes about becoming emotionally flexible, emotionally resilient. Romans chapter 8 verse 28 reminds us that in all things God works for the good of those who love him. Your word of the year is not meant to be stagnant. If you feel that your life is stagnant, then you are in one of the stages of stuck. Once again, those 4 stages are stagnation. You have no interest in growing. The second one is that you are afraid to look yourself in the mirror and admit where you really are. The third one is excuses. You make up lies to stay where you are, even though you know where you really are in life. And then the fourth one is that you want to grow, you just don't know how. That would be the discovery phase. Your word is going to grow with you, and it's going to guide your habits, and it's going to guide your goals. It's important to understand that as we go throughout life, we're going to need flexibility because our circumstances are going to change all the time. Make sure that you are flexible, but you're still using your word of the year to help you in your decision making. It's your North Star. So just think about it that way. So we've gone through why these words of the year are important. We've gone through a whole bunch of different words of the year, what you can do with them, why they're important. One of those might resonate with you. But if one of the ones I just talked about doesn't resonate with you, then that's okay. I'm going to help you find out your word of the year. It can be the same year over year, but I have not had a word of the year repeat yet. It's something that I actually have a lot of fun coming up with. So I'm excited to talk about how you can choose your own word of the year because it's not something where you're just going to close your eyes, you're going to spin a wheel, and then it just lands on something, and then Boom, perfect. It needs to be more personal than that. Don't write down a whole bunch of different ones, put them in a hat, draw it out, and then use that as your word of the year. It's going to take some reflecting on your life from last year, where you want to go for the upcoming year. It needs to be something that's really intentional. So here is a step-by-step guide for you on how to come up with your word of the year. The first one is to reflect on last year. So go ahead, start looking back. What were some of the wins that you had for last year? What challenges did you face? What lessons did you learn? Reflection is something that's really important. It's really fun. Sometimes things happen to us and we sweep them under the rug. We just want to forget about them, but they still play a role in developing who we are. And so we need to figure out, based on our wins, our losses, what it is that we need to focus on moving forward. In the Bible, James chapter 1, verse 5, it says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault." Your word of the year should be intentional. It should also be something that we pray about. We need to listen for affirmation from God that our word that we choose is going to be an appropriate word of the year moving forward. I have had my word of the year affirmed time and time and time again for my word that is upcoming. And so I'm really trusting God to use that to pull me through this next season, to help me grow into the person that He needs me to be to further His kingdom. And so I want you to pray about it, and I also want you to journal about it. So something that you can do to help reflect on last year is to write down 3 words that describe your previous year. It can be good, bad, ugly, whatever, but just use these 3 words as a starting point for you. The second thing that I want you to do is I want you to close your eyes and I want you to envision. Just picture your absolute ideal year. Picture what you want that year to look like. How do you want to feel? What do you want to accomplish? I want you to be specific. If you want to wake up and have more energy than you've ever had before, that's great. That is a really great thing that you want to feel. Are you wanting to feel happier? Are you wanting to feel more connected to other people? What is it that you want to accomplish? Do you want to write a book? Do you want to launch a podcast? Do you want to go out and meet more people? How do you want to feel? What is it that you want to accomplish? And I want you to be specific with those. If we look in Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 2, it says, "Write the vision, make it plain on tablets." When you write it down, it's going to start taking shape. It's going to be simple. It's going to be plain. The fog is going to start to clear. You're going to be able to gain a clear perspective on potential words of the year for you. So, like I said, close your eyes, visualize that perfect, ideal day. And then, what about that? What qualities or habits stand out? These can help you to choose your word of the year. And then the third thing is to just brainstorm words. Get out a pen and just start writing. Don't overthink it. You don't have to write them down if you don't want to. As far as brainstorming goes, you can go find a bunch of lists online of people that have done words of the year, potential words of the year. You can go through that list and you can say, okay, well, that one resonates with me a little bit, that one doesn't. And then once you have a few in mind, write those few down. I think that's a really great practice that you can do. But I don't want you to overthink it. Just look through that. You can write things out like courage, health, faith, patience, abundance, connection, whatever words stand out to you. Again, it doesn't matter what your friends are trying to do with their life. It matters what you want to do with your life. So your word needs to be your word regardless of what anybody else has on theirs. And then I want you to ask yourself, do any of these words excite me? Do they feel meaningful? Can it guide all areas of my life or whatever areas you are wanting to focus on? As I've said, mine are physical, mental, financial, spiritual, and relational / marital. Does my word of the year affect those areas? Does it affect my whole life? Eventually, going through that, asking those questions is something for you is going to click. Or maybe 2 or 3 are going to click, but it is going to filter in, getting you closer to your goal. The hardest part for me, being very logically minded, is trusting my gut, because I want to validate the feeling that I have in my gut rather than just trusting it. So for me, that's really hard to do. But sometimes you just know. You just know if the word is right for you. It could be something that comes back time and time again. If so, like I said, mine was affirmed many, many times. Sometimes it's something that just comes back to you and you have to lean into that. If it keeps coming back to you, then it's probably the one for you. If we look in Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 through 6, it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding." God's going to give you that gut feeling whenever you're just going to know. God's going to give you that gut feeling. You're going to have to trust in him. You're going to have to trust with your heart. And you can't lean on your own understanding. You can't try to prove that gut feeling. You just got to lean into it. You have to go with what feels right and with what's affirmed for you. Once you have what you believe to be your word of the year, I want you to say your word out loud over and over and over again. The key word here is saying it out loud. Say it out loud. Does it feel like it's something that's going to empower your life? And if it does, then you have found your word. Lean into that. Start building your goals, your habits around that. So now that you've picked your word, it's time for you to actually take action and to live out that word. So I'm going to give you some practical tips to help you out. The first is to put it everywhere. Put it on your bathroom mirror, put it on your coffee maker, wherever you're going to see it all the time. The more that you see it, the more you're going to read it, the more you're going to say it in your head, the more that it's eventually going to sink in. I want you to start and end your day with it. In the morning, think about how you can shape your day with that word. And then at night, I want you to reflect on how you lived out that word throughout the day. Psalms chapter 90, verse 12 says, "Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom." Start your day with your word of the year. At the end of the day, reflect on how you lived it out. The third thing is to break it into mini goals. Many, M-I-N-I, not M-A-N-Y. I know that my accent can confuse those sometimes. So let's just say that, like me, for this year, let's say that your word of the year is health. What does that look like? Maybe it means meal prepping, exercising 3 times a week. Maybe it means going to the gym 4 times a week, no excuses, making sure that you eat organic, whatever it is that you're wanting to focus on as far as health is concerned. Break it down into smaller goals, smaller habits. Choose habits that are going to align with your word. Your word should shape your life for the year. And if you are wanting to shape your life, then you need to develop good, healthy habits. So let's say that your word is discipline. This might mean that you set a really strict, but specific to you, not something you see on YouTube, specific to you, morning routine. That might mean limiting distractions, or maybe you decide to commit to weekly check-ins to check your progress. Habits are something that are small decisions that are going to help build the bigger picture for your life. Again, if you want to build your life, your habits are going to be the building blocks. I want you to write out one habit that you can adopt immediately and before the end of day today. Doesn't mean that you have to, before the end of the day today. But I want you to write out one habit that you can immediately do in your life and let it reflect upon that word. And then I want you to set a reminder. That can be in your phone, that can be a sticky note on your mirror, coffee maker, refrigerator, whatever. Just somewhere, write down your word of the year to remind you to live it out each and every day. It's really hard for us to hold ourselves accountable. So we need to make sure that we share our word with somebody else. That could be a friend. If you are married, that could be your spouse. If you're in a relationship, your significant other, your family. Tell somebody about it. If you have nobody to share it with, really share it on social media, but put it out there. Let somebody see it, because accountability is really powerful, and it's going to help create the motivation, the societal pressure to move your life forward in the direction of your word. Ecclesiastes chapter 4 verses 9 through 10 says, 2 are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. When you work together, you can do more than you can do by yourself. There's an old quote that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. 2 are better than 1. Remember that. Share your word with somebody. And then you need to revisit your word and reflect on your word. We've already talked about life gets busy. Your word might shift meaning. Again, if we're thinking about strength, it might mean that you want to go and lift, but eventually it might mean emotional resilience. Halfway through the year, our circumstances change. You need to be able to be flexible. You have to check in with yourself regularly and know that you are not by yourself. Philippians chapter 1 verse 6 says, he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. You need to know that you are not by yourself. It might be difficult sometimes to stay the course, but the person who began good work in you will carry it on to completion. That's another reason that we need to really make sure that we pray and wait for affirmation for our word of the year. What I need you to do, as far as revisiting and reflecting, is to create a monthly journal prompt and just ask yourself this one question. How did I live out my word this month? You can do it once a week if you want. So how did I carry out my word this week? Or how did I live out my word this month, this quarter? However frequently you want to reflect on it, but you have to use this in order to track your own growth. And having a word of the year is really great. It's really powerful. It's going to carry your life in a forward direction, in the direction that you choose and God affirms. And if it's something that I know, nothing in life is without challenges. We have to be able to overcome challenges because you're going to hit some bumps. So here's how you can handle just some of the common bumps that I have run into when trying to live out a word of the year. The first one is just forgetting what your word of the year is, which is why it's really important and why I have talked about it more than once, to write it down, put it on the fridge, coffee maker, write it in your phone, have it as your background, whatever. Revisit your word, because forgetting your word can happen if you don't. Revisit your reminders and your routines. And then sometimes you're going to feel stuck. You might end up in one of the 4 stages of stuck that we talked about: stagnation, fear, excuses, or discovery. But if your word at times feels off for you, maybe it's challenging in ways that you weren't expecting, we need to think back to Isaiah chapter 43 verse 19, where it says, see, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? Sometimes we try something new And we don't always see the fruits of it, but we have to stay the course even when we feel like it's not panning out the way that we expected. Growth is something that is unpredictable and scary at times, but we just have to remind ourselves that feeling stuck is a normal part of the process. We just need to make sure that we use the proper tools to get through that. It's also perfectly okay for you to doubt yourself. Progress is really important, and we need to recognize that progress is not perfection. I believe that in recent years, I have become more and more of a perfectionist, and I have to realize that sometimes things have to just be good enough, and that's progress for me. If I can see that progress is being made, then I'm satisfied. Focus on progress, not perfection. Celebrate your small wins. You don't have to wait until you reach your goal to celebrate. You need to celebrate the small wins. I want you to keep a success jar. Sounds dumb, but just bear with me. Keep a success jar, and you're going to write down every single win that you have accomplished in pursuit of your word of the year. And then I want you to pull one of those out. On the days when you are feeling down, like you're not making progress, pull one of those out and use that as motivation, as encouragement to stay the course. While having a word of the year is, again, important and helpful, it's only helpful if you take action on it. So I want you to spend 10 minutes, just 10 minutes of your day to invest in you, to creating a better life for the upcoming year. I want you to take 10 minutes right after this episode to reflect on your goals, your habits, your values. Write down a list of words. It could be 1,000,000 words long. It could be 3 words long. I don't care. Just write down a list of words that resonate with you and your vision for the year. And then I want you to pick one that truly speaks to where it is that you want to go in your life. Share your word with someone that you trust. Somebody that cares enough about you to help you grow to be the best version of yourself. And I would love for you to share your word of the year once you have one in the comments below. And if anybody is interested, go check those out. Give encouragement to our community. This is a community about building people up. We want to see people win. And so go comment your word of the year. And to everybody listening, go encourage them, go cheers them on. Because choosing a word of the year, it's not just some cute exercise that, I decided I was going to try a word of the year because I just, think that it's trendy or it's cool. It's a powerful way for you to focus in on becoming the best version of yourself. It's going to help focus your energy, help you to be intentional, as well as helping you to stay grounded in what matters the absolute most. This is not about ignoring your goals and your habits. It's about creating a framework, a purpose, and giving direction to your life. Your habits and your goals need to be in line with that word of the year and in the areas within your life that you are needing them to be impacted. So, what's your word going to be? Take some time to reflect, pray, and choose your word of the year with intentionality and with purpose. And when you do, comment below. Share it with somebody that you know and you trust. And I would really love for everybody to go in and encourage those that share their word of the year. So I just wanted to give you a quick update. This is going to be the last episode of season 1. Incredible. We made it. I have learned a whole lot. As you can tell, my studio doesn't even look the same as it did on episode 1. I've got different equipment, and I'm going to keep on growing. And so I'm going to be taking a week off so that I can dial back, look at what content really resonates with you, find out how I can grow and improve and get ready for season 2. So I'm going to be taking a week off. There's not going to be an episode this upcoming Monday, but it's going to pick up with season 2 the Monday after that. So please make sure that you subscribe, download, like, share, comment that word of the year below. Go follow us on social media to stay tuned. And this has been another episode of the Joshua Bridwell Show. Thank you so much for hanging in with us through season 1. Big things coming in season 2. I can't wait. Like I said, stay tuned, and we'll catch you next time. Let's grow.